Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Laurie Smith, and I'm just really happy to be joining you all. It's awesome to be here, November 23rd, 10 p.m., Monday night. This is my Blog Talk Radio show program, and it's going to be all about child abuse prevention, human rights abuses prevention, and really just, a mishmash of whatever happens to come along. I'll just probably introduce myself a little bit here this evening and talk about what my interest in child rights and human rights, and why I'm so interested in being involved in advocating and just being a voice out there in support of survivors and those who did not survive, and also, just to help promote positive change. I am, a supporter of positive change. I believe that we all make a difference, and just by raising our voices and, just actually stepping up, standing up, and saying, look, we don't like what we see, and we just want to make some changes. So I'll just introduce myself. This is my first show, and if you're interested in phoning in with suggestions, or if you have any, let's say you have a great story you want to tell regarding, your own story, or maybe something you heard on the news, please feel free to phone in. My guest call-in number is area code 917-889-3736, and you can phone in, or you can go ahead and send me a little chat message in the little chat message box on the Blog Talk Radio website, which is just awesome. And I can, sort of read your question or read your story out to the listeners out here. And I'd like to keep this, strictly about positive change. I don't want to spend a lot of time dealing with the negative side of child abuse and human rights abuses, just because anyone who's experienced it knows how negative it really is. And anyone who actually looks around the world and sees, what's actually happening out there, can see how negative it really is, and we're not going to get anywhere with that. So I figure we just concentrate on really the positive, the hope-filled message that things can change, and things, good things can happen to people. Good things happen to people like me. And I have my own story that I'm sure we'll get to. I actually did a test show not too long ago just to see if the sound quality was going to be good, and to make sure that I was speaking, clearly enough that people would be able to understand me. And it worked out pretty good, I thought, for the first time. So I thought I might just briefly go into my story again this evening, and just introduce myself and talk a little bit about the blogs that I write, and also about this Blog Talk Radio show. And first of all, I'll just say my name's Laurie Smith, and I live in Canada. I'm in Calgary, and that's just north of Montana. And it's a beautiful country. Canada's awesome. I love the States as well. I was born and raised in the United States, in New Mexico. And I grew up there and spent the first 30 years of my life there, and I love the United States. I also love Canada, so I'm really a citizen of both countries, and really happy to be that way. My parents are Canadian, and that's why I have a dual citizenship. So it's really awesome to be able to see these two countries. They both really stand up for what I stand up for, which is human rights and freedom for all, which, growing up in these countries, really, it does instill that in you. And, you look around the world today and see the problems and the issues that are still going on year after year with the children, and, just overall men, women, and children all around the world not being treated properly and not having any recourse. Growing up in these countries, at least we have help. We can get help if we reach out. And sadly, some people don't get help. And, it could happen to anyone. Domestic violence issues, child abuse issues. Lots of times there isn't help for those people. I know I grew up in a home that was violent, and had my own issues with child abuse, and so. But there's people with, who are really going through stuff right now, who just need to know that there is hope, and they just need to reach out, because it takes that a lot of times. People don't see what's going on because they don't look around them enough, and I think that's a lot of the issues with child abuse and stuff. People don't really notice the signs to look for. And domestic abuse, a lot of times it's an emotional response that these people, men and women, go through dealing with abuse from their partner with a controlling factor. They learn, it's like a terrible learned behavior to not speak up out of fear. And so, and not realizing that help is just right around the corner. So I'm telling you, there is a message of hope in this Blog Talk Radio show, and I hope you keep tuning in. I'm going to be on here every Monday night, and so we have lots of time to talk. Every Monday night, half an hour, 10 p.m., that's Mountain Standard Time, and that's 12 o'clock midnight, which is late for you guys on the East Coast, which I apologize for. I have lots of friends on the East Coast, and I love you all. And so I thought we'd just talk about child abuse prevention, human rights abuses prevention, just things that maybe we can look into as far as what's going on around the world, how people are dealing with these things, how certain organizations are working toward finding answers and finding out what works, and looking into some groups here in North America who are making a difference. And I just thought it'd be nice to be able to raise my voice in support of child abuse survivors, domestic violence survivors, and just any and all human rights survivors. I just feel like I need to stand up and be a voice. I've always wanted to. Actually, it's been a part of my life since I was a child to stand up against it in my own family and just to say, no, I don't know it's not right. And so we all have to do that. It would be, that's my hope, is that this show will actually just kind of inspire you to take a look around you and see if there's someone in your world who might need a hand. My blogs, I actually have 2 blogs. I'm a student at MRU. It's Mount Royal here in Calgary. I'm just taking continuing education programs right now, but it's great. I'm studying international community development, which is awesome because it does, we're studying really the underlying issues behind poverty, which really is the issue behind a lot of the domestic abuse and child abuse and the lack of human rights really around the world, and that's really what I'm interested in. So the class is great. It's really opened up my world to see where these issues are, what's the underlying issues, and how things are being done with these great organizations to actually make change, positive change. So I thought of them. About 2 years ago, I saw a program on TV that just changed my mind. I was, I've always been interested in watching those shows, World Vision and whatnot on television, and thinking, oh, those people are doing such a great job, and that's just wonderful. But I never thought that I would get involved myself. And, I just figured it was great that they were doing it. And 2 years ago, I saw a program on television that just changed my mind completely, and I thought, why am I just sitting here when I don't like what I see out there? So if you have a great story you'd like to share, please feel free to get in touch with me, and my dial-in guest call-in number is area code 917-889-3736, and you're welcome to give me a call. I don't quite know how to work this thing yet. This is my first real live show, but I'm sure I can figure it out. I always do. I manage quite well for somebody who's not tech savvy. So yeah, I decided to get involved, and I thought, well, what can I do? What can I do? And I thought, well, okay. I know what it's like to suffer in a home with violence. I know what it's like to live in kind of some poverty situations, not like people in Africa with no food, and which my heart just goes out to those people. But just not having any real extras and really scraping by, and sometimes going without lunch, not really, not a whole lot of money to go around in the family, which never really bothered me. But I knew what human suffering was all about. And you can see I have 2 blogs if you're ever interested in checking them out. My story's there for you to see. I actually am writing it's being written as I just tell it. I'm up to about the first 30 years of my life, and it's graphic and it's sad, but I felt I needed to tell my story, and because North America who are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder and different things, who have grown up in abusive homes and have had terrible things happen to them, and they might be feeling like there's just nowhere for them to turn, and that they're just always going to feel that there's something wrong with them, or that their life can't be a good life, or that their life can't be something that seems good, and that's just not true at all. I just wanted to be. I also really, this show has a lot to do with that, because I really wanted to let people know that if you reach out, and if nobody's reaching up to you, then you reach out, and by doing that, you will see that there will be people around you who will support you. All the times people don't know, because you get so good at pretending that you're fine. You get so good at pretending that, oh, I had a great childhood or something. Maybe you don't talk to too many people about it, and because it might be just out of embarrassment, or maybe you just don't want to. It's just too awful, and you just don't want to let people in on your in your world or in your secrets. But I know that when I reached out to people in my lifetime, a lot of times they would just leave. Like, they would just find it just too much to deal with me, and I lost a lot of friends doing that. But I found out who my true friends are, and it's important. It was important for me to do that. I thought, I don't need friends who aren't going to support me through this, and it just didn't. I figured I'd rather be by myself and just not have any friends if that's the way it's going to go. And so by doing that, I actually found out who my real friends are, which is really awesome, because I have some really supportive friends now, and people in my life that care, that truly do care. And I just want you to know that I do care. And if you need to chat, or you want to send me an email, or you just want to talk, by all means, please do, because I know what it's like to be suffering, and I know what it's like to be feeling like, hopeless, and there's just nowhere to turn. And, my blog actually goes into quite a lot of detail about the abuse I suffered as a child, and it led to drug abuse, and which could have been extremely bad. Like, I was actually, because I saw my brothers destroy their lives with drugs, I decided not to follow in their footsteps after my brother committed suicide. And that was at the age, I was 21 years old at that point, and was doing heavy-duty drugs. And I really felt like, I thought, this is going to be my life, in a few years, if I don't stop and take control of my life. And think, I want to have a good life. And that's when I realized that I truly wanted to live, and that I did want to make, have a good life for myself. And I knew it was going to be up to me to do it. And so it did take me a long time. Now I'm not going to be painting a rosy picture. It didn't take me a long time to get off the drugs, but it did take me a long time to change my mind about certain things, and to actually put my past where it needed to be, which was, to go ahead and talk about it, get it out in the air, get it out in the open, and then by doing that, I was able to put it behind me. But I feel like, I can make a positive change in someone's life, and I think that it's important to know that there are organizations out there who have a lot to offer, and there are people out there who are really willing to help you out. So don't sit there and waste any more time. That's what I have to say. Life is really short, and we need to enjoy it. This is just it. And so this is why I fight. My whole fight is it's an ongoing fight for other people's freedom from this sort of thing, from abuse. And I figured I have nothing better to do than stand up for people who need help. And so I figured, why not get involved? That's why I'm here tonight talking to you, and I'm going to be here every Monday night as long as I can afford to be. So if you're interested in getting involved in my show, please do. If you have any, there's so many people out there with great information, I'm sure of it. And if you have anything that can help me out for my show regarding child abuse prevention, human rights abuse prevention, that would be awesome. Any suggestions, any ideas for topics would be great. Anybody who wants to be a guest on my show, please let me know. I'm so happy just to actually share a message of hope for those out there who are feeling like there just isn't any hope, because I'm living proof. And for a long time I wasn't suicidal, but the thoughts were there. And because my brother had killed himself, and he had tried a few times before to kill himself, I felt that I could have fallen into that, I was feeling so hopeless for a long time, and feeling like, I didn't really count. Like I didn't count, and that's what my mom told me, and over repeatedly throughout my whole life, that I was just worthless and didn't count. And so I just believed it and grew up believing it. And so when the time came, I I should just end it. I feel so dark, and that was what I thought. So people who know me today wouldn't realize that it could happen to somebody, but it does, and it happens all the time. So I'm here to tell you that you have to fight. You have to fight to stay alive, and you have to fight to want to live. You have to fight to want to be free from abuse. That's why I'm all about child abuse prevention, human rights abuses prevention, because it's a fight. It's not going to be. You can't. You can't expect change unless you're willing to stand up and say, I'm affecting change. I'm making change. And that's what it takes. And it's a lot of work. But it can be done, and it's slow. It's one step at a time, and it's very slow. It took me a long time to get where I am today, and as far as being able to talk about it and to feel that, it wasn't my fault and that really I didn't deserve to be treated that way. And because really I didn't have anybody backing me up saying that to me, not very many people anyway, who actually probably knew about it. So, yeah, I was really basically on my own in that, and except for one family who I actually wrote about in my blog, stepping in when I really needed to see some good stuff in my life, and I was about 13 and a half, and I was feeling at that point, so it was just the normal way I was treated, so I was obviously not happy about it, but because it was upsetting. But the thing is I wasn't really looking for help at that point, because my whole life had kind of been like that, and I had seen so much, terrible things at home, that I just sort of felt like that was my life, and that's the way it was just going to go on. And these people kind of took me under their wings and treated me like one of their own children, and really made a huge difference in my life. They just showed me how a real family should get along, and how to care about each other, and how to behave, and how to treat each other with respect and dignity. And so they really put that, the human rights cry in my heart, because they showed me that, that behavior is wrong. And so what my learned behavior then, that I would have probably carried with me had they not intervened, was changed. Because I saw how they behaved, and saw that, that was the way that my family was going was not the right way. So, yeah, that's what I thought the show might be about. Would be just survivor stories, just people calling in with their own stories, and or it could be current events, people calling in to talk about what they see going on in the media around the world regarding human rights and child rights. I also thought it might be a good resource, or a good resource blog for people who are survivors of child abuse. And I thought maybe I could pass the word along for a few organizations that I know are doing awesome work. Dreamcatchers for Abused Children is one, and they are down in the States, but they also have chapters like all over now. It's quite international. But they are on the web, Dreamcatchers for Abused Children. They're on the web. They're on Facebook. They're on Twitter. They have their own websites. They're on MySpace. They are two moms on a mission, and they have lots of resources. They have books. They write books. They're two authors, co-authors, and these ladies are working hard to help children around the world, actually right now, who are being abused, and they're also working behind the scenes to help survivors who are, suffering with like post-traumatic stress disorder and things like that. They have the resources. They have the information on their website, and I would suggest for anyone. I'm actually a big fan of them, and I follow their blogs, and I'm on their website quite a bit, just looking around, because there's some great stories on there of survivors, and just to see what they're doing. And they're doing such great work. And my heart just goes out to them, and I just love them. And so, yeah, I just follow their blog, and I know there's so many resources listed on their blog, especially for people down in the States, because their numbers, all the numbers for the United States, child abuse hotlines, and everything to do with crisis lines, all of that is right there at your fingertips. And I would highly recommend you check out their website, Dreamcatchers for Abused Children. And so I'm just going to promote them big time if nobody minds, because I just love them. And so my blogs, if anybody's interested, are on Blogger. I have 2 blogs, and I also have a YouTube channel devoted to human rights and child abuse issues. My blog one is called Promote Positive Change for Human Rights Abuses, and that one is a blog that I actually did for school. That's what I started out talking about when I first came on the air here this evening, but I got a little sidetracked. And that blog is actually just mostly human rights issues concerning women in Afghanistan. That's a big issue with me. I'm a big-time supporter of human rights for women in Afghanistan because they just have no rights. They don't even know that they're supposed to have rights, and when they do find out they're supposed to have rights, they can't really do anything about it. So my heart is with them, and I'm trying to learn the language. I'm learning to speak their language, and I want to make some real positive change over there and get involved. So I work with a group called the Canadian International Learning Foundation. I'm volunteering for them, and they are all volunteers, actually. It's all volunteer or a Canadian registered charity. And it's called the Canadian International Learning Foundation, and I would recommend you check them out. They do some great work in Afghanistan and Uganda if you're interested in looking into that. They're all about education, and that's their main focus. And there's some awesome people working behind the scenes all the time to get funding for education for Afghanistan, for Kandahar, and also for a school in Uganda. So I would recommend you check them out. They are a grassroots charity that are really raising people's eyebrows, and especially the Canadian government is checking them out because they realize that they have a good thing going. I also have a blog called Not So Fond of Memories, Growing Up in an Abusive Home. That's my story, and I wrote it out chapter by chapter. I recommend you start with my story and then go to prologue and chapter 1, because it's written in, I wrote it that way on purpose, because I wanted to write from my point of view at the age of 13 and a half, where my life changed, and I thought that would be the best place to start, because that's where I became aware that something was wrong and that, something needed to be changed. And nothing did change but until I got to be an adult and realized that, my mom had severe depression. She was depressed most of the time, and with the issues going on in the family and her struggle with my dad, it was really hard for her, and I was just kind of a convenient punching bag for her, and unfortunately. And so we didn't get along that great until I was older. And then even towards the end there, it was kind of hard. She was very sick, and she just didn't feel well at all. So, that's what that blog is about. And it's kind of, I'm not done with it yet. I probably have about 10 more chapters to go, and I've made it to about 30, the age of 30. And I still have quite a few chapters to write in that one just to get me to where I am right now, which I don't want to tell you how old I am. And so we won't go there. But anyway,